Here's T-Bone and Heather on Star 98.3 and 97.7 The Bay.
It's 11 minutes after 8 o'clock, 8:11. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the show. And joining us on the phone line, as long as I've done everything right here, Dr. Dubolis. Good morning, doctor. How are you?
Good morning, and thank you for having me back. I appreciate it.
Oh, it was so nice seeing you at the U.S. Oyster Festival. Are you an oyster person? Do you like them?
I like all things that live in the sea. Yes.
Good politically correct answer.
Excellent, excellent. Now, Dr. Dubolis, do you have Kara with you as well today?
I do. I have Dr. Kara Herrer. She's the director of pharmacy at Calvert Health.
Awesome.
Hi, T-Bone and Heather.
Hi, good morning. We're
Good
gonna talk to you in just a bit, Kara. But I wanted to talk to Dr. Dubolis a little bit. What are you seeing in ERs right now? Are they busy? Are they kind of, because I keep hearing about these kids in this RVS thing. What is RVS?
So, yes, well, we'll start with, we're really busy again. It seems like every time we talk, I just complain that, we're busy again.
Mhm. Yeah, well,
that's all right.
It's the pediatric patients that are kind of seeing increasing in their respiratory viruses. RSV is known as respiratory syncytial virus.
Okay.
It generally affects the under 2 crowd.
Ooh.
And usually the viruses seem to be kind of different to each other in the sense that we'll get RSV season, and then that'll decline, and then we get flu season. But this year, because it's just post-COVID, we're seeing what we call a triple demic, which is RSV, influenza, predominantly in the pediatric population, and then still this kind of undercurrent of COVID at the same time. So, lots of respiratory illnesses circulating right now.
Okay, can I ask you a question? Is it possible that their immune system, the immune system was on hiatus for like 2 years? Is it possible now that we're just catching up and this is the way it always is? We just have forgotten because they were all wearing masks and not in school?
Yes. So that's kind of an easy answer, but I think that you're right on. I think that kids have had mitigation in the sense that they've been wearing masks, they've been social distancing, but now kids are all back in school. There's lots of travel. They're not hand washing like they should. So their immune systems are a little bit less, and I think, and they're going back to school when they're sick. I don't want to bring that up, but a lot of kids are, and it's their immune systems are lowered, and so we're seeing all of this happening prominently.
Especially for the little kids that are, right
little
around
guys,
2 or 3 years old. Their entire life has been in a bubble. I mean, they were born into a world where they grew up in a bubble.
How serious is it for this RSV? How serious is it for these little guys?
So the good news is that the CDC hasn't really noted that it's been more life-threatening this year.
Okay.
But it's just sheer numbers, sheer volume of kids, and it usually really affects premature babies under the age of 4 months. And it is completely upper respiratory in the sense that it causes difficulty. It causes inflammation of the airways, and it causes a lot of mucus plugging.
Yeah.
So most of the time, RSV presents just like the common cold. But for kids that are younger, maybe have underlying lung disease, we are seeing them, and they are requiring oxygen. And so that's kind of where we are. We have had to transfer a couple kids to Children's this year with RSV.
Really? Gosh.
Yeah, but just to reassure your listeners, most of the time these kids are just presenting like the common cold.
Okay, good.
Okay, now let me ask you, and I hope I pronounce this right. Is it Dr. Herrer?
Yes.
Herrer.
It's Dr. Herrer. Thank you.
Oh,
yes.
You're welcome. Okay, is Kara okay?
Yes, Kara is fine.
Kara. Okay, Kara. Now, you
Kara.
are the director of pharmacy over there at Calvert Health. Let me ask you about this, okay? Because I know that the COVID vaccine totally changes my DNA and makes me a lizard person.
Right, that's what it does.
We are seeing there is a new COVID vaccine, okay? And they have tried to narrow down. Maybe you can explain it better. The new COVID vaccine that's out there, probably better than the past ones, the boosters of the past?
So the new vaccine, are you referring to the Novavax vaccine that is different from the bivalent vaccines that we're seeing as boosters.
I don't know.
The one that takes care of Omicron and other stuff.
Okay. So, yes. So right now we have bivalent boosters.
Okay.
We have, yes. So the bivalent booster will cover your Omicron variants. There's different Omicron variants. So it's kind of giving you that extra boost from what we have seen for the last year in the different strains that we have seen. So if you had your original vaccine, your first and second doses, then getting the bivalent vaccine will protect you even more going into this flu and COVID season and the winter season. So it is highly recommended to get this vaccine. And the CDC does recommend that everyone 5 years and older should get this updated bivalent booster.
What if you got somebody who's never taken one of the vaccines, and they at some point decide, maybe I should go ahead and get the? Do they have to start at the beginning with the first shot?
They do. They need to
Are
start.
you kidding me?
No, you do. You need to start with your first doses because.
Oh, they're never going to do that.
We need to cover the original strains of COVID,
Gotcha.
which are with the primary vaccine. So you would get a first dose, and then you would get a second dose.
Right.
And then 2 months after that, you would get your bivalent vaccine. So
Which would cover
definitely-
everything. It would cover everything at that point.
You want to cover everything. Yeah.
Okay.
So we can knock it out. Another thing is, too, I mean, I'm pro-vaccine only because I'm fat and over 50, which is probably two of the main things. Of course, if you have a compromised immune system, which I do not, I'm very fortunate, knock on wood. But other people, I mean, who would you recommend to get the vaccine? You're going to have your naysayers and you're going to have your folks that are never going to get the vaccine. I got that. I understand that. And God bless them. Hope they don't get sick. But what about the people who are maybe on the fence and considering it? Who would you suggest get the vaccine?
So, I always refer to the CDC, and the CDC does recommend that everyone 6 months and older does get the COVID vaccine. And what does it do for you? It provides extra immunity, and at that point, it's going to work it's going to have strong protection against severe disease and all these COVID-19 strains. So it's going to protect you that if you do get COVID, it's going to be, a mild to moderate case. And it shouldn't lead to a hospitalization.
And that also applies to people like myself who are just naturally incredibly handsome?
Yeah, absolutely.
Really? Okay. Okay.
But you still have to get it.
Okay. All right. Seems weird.
Okay, ladies, let me ask you this. And we're going to come off of the RSV now in kids. I hate to put you out on a limb, like forecasting what you see in December and January. But do you see kids getting sick more because they have been isolated, they haven't been in school, they haven't been doing sports, and now they're back at it? Do you see flu just an uptick in cases in Southern Maryland?
Well, I'll tell you my own personal anecdotal
Please.
Good.
So flu season came 6 weeks early, and I actually think that that's a good thing because
our kid had it. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like by the time we get to the holiday season, hopefully we'll be seeing declining rates of both RSV and influenza.
Oh.
And I suspect, unfortunately, we'll see some increasing COVID cases. So I'm hoping that when RSV and influenza is on the decline and COVID may be rearing its ugly head again,
right,
we'll have a little bit of a reprieve from the pediatric viruses, and then we'll have to focus again on COVID.
Oh,
but
that's a positive. That's a positive outlook.
You know me, I'm optimistic.
Yes!
I always find the silver lining.
That's
and I think
awesome.
One more question.
that's the hope.
One more question, and either one can field this or both. It doesn't matter. Okay, so this is the question for parents. Their kid is sick, and maybe they're a little guy or gal or whatever. They're sick. When do you make that decision to go to the ER versus just fluids and cold compress?
Sure. I mean, that's a tough decision for parents. Even as a parent and as a physician, I sometimes look at my kid and think, boy, they need to see a doctor. But I think you lose all sense of just normal, objectiveness when it's your kid. So I totally understand. And I think if your kid is not having any difficulty breathing, having nasal flaring, not breathing fast, it's still playful, having wet diapers, not lethargic. Yeah, your kid is having a viral
I'm all
illness.
those things.
Wet diapers. Yeah.
Even the wet diapers.
Yes, right now, as we speak.
So if they're having issues breathing, if you got an infant and there are no wet diapers, obviously that's dehydration. Bam, we want to go. But other than that, if they maybe have a fever or whatever, maybe just lots of fluids, cold compress.
Because I think some parents panic a little bit, and they run to the emergency room for everything.
Absolutely. I mean, we do see those folks. And like I've told you guys before, like half of my job is reassurance, and I'm happy to do that. And this is the biggest flu pandemic in a decade. So people don't necessarily remember H1N1 from 2009, and that's when we were seeing 400 people in the ER a day because of
I think like
concern.
70,000 people died from that.
Yes, that was so. This is not H1N1, but people are still requiring, reassurance. But the listeners, you guys are savvy. There's savvy parents out there right now, and they're doing a good job deciphering who needs to be seen in the ER. So I want to give them credit. But absolutely, I think dehydration and work of breathing are the two big things to determine when your child needs to come into the emergency department.
I got to ask you one more question because T and I were talking about this earlier. Okay, so we get achy. Okay, maybe we run a fever for a couple of hours and we get tested shamed. People say, well, did you test for COVID? Did you test to see if you had COVID?
Let me tell you something.
I mean,
come from a family.
Stop. I mean, my dog gets better health care than I do.
And I come from a family that didn't go to the doctor. When my brother George cut my brother Randy's nose off with a sickle, we still thought maybe we could sew it on ourselves.
So when
That's for you. Parents. I love that.
So when should people go, oh, yeah, it might be COVID. I'm going to go get a home test kit?
Well, it's so interesting now because people come to the ER and we do basically, they all get COVID swabs, they all get flu swabs, and the younger crowd gets RSV on top of that. And I tell parents, even if all three of those are negative, it doesn't mean that your kid is good to go. Don't put them back in daycare immediately. I think people think they either have one of those three or they're good to get out there and do everything. And it's funny, they're coming for sort of reassurance that they don't have COVID only because they want to put their kids back and circulate them into the community. And I do tell them that they have to it's a virus. It could be adenovirus, it could be rhino. There's so many other viruses.
Right.
But I agree. I mean, people want to know, they immediately want to know, do I have COVID? And there is just a level of concern that they feel 100% better by knowing they don't have COVID, even though they have a fever and have respiratory symptoms.
Right.
They want to be, everybody loves a label. So I think that people are looking to be labeled as, hey, I'm sick, but I don't have COVID.
Okay, so get the new booster shot. Get your flu shot. It's a good idea just to protect yourself. You're your own best advocate when it comes to health care. But ladies, you are fantastic. It was a lovely conversation, and hopefully we don't see you until the next U.S. Oyster Festival, Dr. DeBolis.
Oyster Fest. Yeah.
We'll see you before that. Hopefully not in the ER, but I'd like to see you out and about.
Definitely. You guys have a great day.
Thank you. Happy holidays. See ya. Bye-bye.
8:25, full lines are open for you if you want to be part of the show this morning.
That's right. I said happy holidays because we're in it now.
Well, we're in it now.
We're in it now.
Well, listen, it's
Well, that was
all around us.
That was actually very insightful. I mean, I learned a lot actually from them.
Yeah, they're doctors.
I know, but seriously, I've seen enough Marcus Welby, MD.
Sure.
I'm more or less a doctor, too.
We're running so late, but I think I've always find it interesting when doctors, because I think it's a lot like lawyers. When they get in trouble, they hire a lawyer.
Yeah.
So, like, when doctors get sick, they seek out a doctor. You know what I mean?
Right. It's not like Dr. Heal Thyself. No.
Yeah, it's not like if you were let's say you're a plumber and you get a leak in your house, you don't call some other plumber.
No. Right.
You fix it yourself.
You go in the crawl space
Right.
and get it dealt
but
with.
I think there's a lot of these type of things where you have to be objective and divorced from it.
Yeah, right.
To say, no, they're just running a fever. This is something they ate.
Right.
You know? So, because,
The
doctors
boy was down for, how long was he down, T? A week?
a week.
And we just kept giving him fluids, but he slept. He was
think
just
that's the best thing you
out,
can do.
and he didn't eat. He had lost like 13 pounds in a week.
I think that's the best thing you can do. Your body just says, listen, let me concentrate on one
I'm
thing.
gonna
That's
fight
that's
this.
dealing with this, whatever this is.
Right.
And I don't have to worry about driving or thinking or any of that other kind of stuff. I'm going to shut down. I'm going to shut down for a while.
And he did. He shut down for like a week, but knock on
And
wood, he's
rallied.
better
He's
now.
fine.
He rallied.
Yeah.
Southern Maryland weather.
All ready for today. Sunny. Hot. I mean hot. High near 80. How about that for November 7th? Tonight, clear. Low around 43, and tomorrow is sunny with a high near 58. High tides today. Chesapeake Beach at 3:10 p.m. Point Lookout at 12:29 p.m. and Cobb Island at 2:12 this afternoon. Currently, how about the good folks in Pomfret? You are looking at 66 degrees. Huntingtown, you're already at 70. Bam. There you are. And Country Lakes, 68.
Good morning, Southern Maryland traffic. In Leonardtown, the northbound side of Route 5, that's going very heavy from before Medley's Neck Road around toward Route 4. Otherwise, your trouble free as you make way toward Mechanicsville, getting toward Hughesville, and not too bad toward Waldorf. There are some brake delays getting heavy